Cards blank Pudge and Bowling Green. We're going to talk about that more and looking forward to ACC play. Welcome on into the Cards Companion. My name is Josh, joined by my fabulous friend James. James, how are you doing today?
Doing good, coming off a Saturday win at home. They got louder than life this weekend. A lot of the boys got out. Good festivities in town.
Yeah, there's a lot of fun stuff going on in Louisville this time of the year. I'm a transplant from Louisville. Sadly, I wish I still lived there. I haven't been there in about 9 years, but I've always said that these fall months, not just because of football, but that's the best time to live in Louisville. Man, the weather is perfect. You have so many great events going on, like Louder Than Life. Once you get into that Halloween season, also, you got a lot of cool stuff. So yeah, but kind of getting around to it, Cards, they kind of blanked Bowling Green. They won 40-17. I don't believe that's a cover. That is not a cover, correct?
No, they had the cover. I think it closed at 26.5, and we kind of let them close it at the main end.
Yeah, there's a lot to talk about with that game. It's been so interesting, the reaction online to it. We do our weekly Twitter space for post games over on the Twitter page. Come check that out. It's a good time. Everyone's allowed in. Just a lot of differing opinions, a lot of thought about it. At the end of the day, you put up the big points. You do it under weird circumstances also, losing Isaac Brown. He played partial minutes, losing Duke Watson, Chris Bell playing partial minutes. So it's one of those ones where it's really hard to get a good gauge off of it.
One positive I think you take away is you started saying in limited snaps also, Sylvester and Kerensky.
Yes.
You saw a little bit when they're in the game. That running offense looks so much better when Kerensky's in the game. He's such a good blocking tight end. Before we delve too much into it, I do want to give a shout out to Braxton Jennings. That boy can run a football. True freshman up.
Yeah, that was a cool one to see. I was kind of surprised we didn't see Wilder as much in the game.
Yeah. Keon ran the ball hard. He had a couple that would touchdowns that were just pure effort. Shout out Keon.
Yeah, but so getting into it, it's kind of a weird one in my opinion, because when I talk about defense for the third week in a row, Louisville still has a top 15 defense statistically and analytically. Who would have ever thought we were in this point? But here we are. A month ago when we were doing previews, no one would have said that, but here we are. And that's with the loss of Stanquan as well.
Something to factor into, it should be ranked even higher, as over half of the yard per play that they've allowed this season has been in garbage time against EKU and Bowling Green. On Bowling Green, before that big RPO touchdown, Bowling Green was only having 3.3 yards per play. The defense was able to lock down the pass, and they're able to get in the rushing lanes to be able to prevent big gains. Bowling Green had the occasional 8-9 yarder, but more often than not, they were meeting them in the backfield.
Yeah, and that's something I wanted to point out there is, if we're just talking ones and twos, on English, he's got something going, man. So if we're only counting ones and twos in this, Ron English has given up a total of 3 points on a long field. Now, obviously, you have backups come in. You have the situation giving up 14 points in the second half. You have a few situations in EKU. But, I mean, they got a squad, man. And what makes me so happy, and this is going to take us back to the EKU game, it's not just because they have better athletes. Ron he's doing some coaching. He's scheming things up. This past week against Bowling Green, the blitz rate was not as high, but they were doing something that I haven't seen Ron do in a very long time. They were putting down 5 guys on the line of scrimmage. They had their 2 backers. They had their star backer sitting up at the middle third, and then they had their 2 safeties come down and play diagonal with their linebackers. And that was in direct response to Bowling Green being a heavy run team. Now, you had a few where your 2 safeties, they bit back out into their coverage, but more often than not, they were blitzing or they were keying in man on a tight end or a halfback. And
Mhm.
that's just he's doing stuff, man. He's doing some really high level stuff with this defense that we haven't seen. And that's one thing I'm never going to say a bad thing about Ron for the past 3 weeks or past 4 weeks, I guess, whatever, however you want to call it. He's doing some amazing things.
Mhm. One of the best coaching decisions you saw yesterday was off of a timeout. Bollinger was moving the ball, and he opted to drop Antonio Watts back in like a blanket coverage to kind of just shadow Perry. And Watts got his first interception of the year on a play that was a coach adjustment. That wasn't the initial play. That play, typically you'll see Watts be closer to the line of scrimmage, but they dropped him back because of the tight end had been open the last 3 passes before that.
Yeah, man. I mean, and the coverages, like you said, the shadowless coverage that they drop Watson, that's not their first time doing it this season.
Mhm.
Like they're showing some stuff that we haven't seen, and I think this is what everyone kind of wanted Ron English to do, and he's doing it. Now, obviously, on Saturday, I don't believe we had any sacks, did we?
I don't believe so, no. We had a lot of
Which,
pressure. They were throwing the ball out as soon as we got there.
yeah, a lot of pressure, no sacks. To be fair, Bowling Green didn't throw the ball all that much, but there was consistent pressure in the gaps. I do believe in the first half they rotated through. They're doing like an 11-man D line rotation by
I
my
think
count,
I think there was 11 in the first half, yeah.
which is awesome to see. I mean, just defensively, I don't have a bad thing to say. I mean, other than backups, wrap up your tackles. Like, what are we doing? There is a little bit of a drop off there from those ones and twos to your threes and fours, which, just being very truthful at the level that Louisville recruits, that would be expected, just being honest with ourselves. So that's a little concerning. That might affect you deep into the year. But I mean, even with the loss of Stanquan, it was a little rocky there from the linebackers that first 2 drives, in my opinion. But after that, they adjusted and they played the game well.
I think Capers had a really good third quarter.
He did.
Caleb had to adjust. He came over from Tennessee in the offseason. It seemed more he was playing a little bit cautious early on, but as the game got on, he seemed to be more comfortable, and the defense flowed through that. I think you have 2 quality options in place of Clark. If they play defense like they did yesterday, the ones and twos, they're a top 3 defense in ACC. This I want to touch on one thing. We touched on the defensive line. They didn't have to stress too much because Bowling Green's a very heavy run team. The secondary is not allowing much open at all.
No.
And even on the passes they did complete, their corners, safeties were right there. They weren't no rack after the catch.
Yeah, and like what I've been loving from that is there are certain situations where I'm noticing the cornerbacks are playing a little softer on their man coverages, but
Mhm.
then you have a safety cracking down on that point of attack and knocking a ball free, and that's a constant thing. And one would seem to think that's a scheme thing.
Mhm.
And if that's what you're doing, man, that's some high level stuff right there. And I mean, yeah, I just know nothing bad to say about the defense here, like at all, in my opinion.
Now let's talk about a weird one from this weekend. The offense played as we have mentioned before with limited snaps. I think Isaac Brown was only on the field for 1 or 2 carries. Chris Bell was on a little bit more, but Duke Watson didn't play at all.
Mhm.
The one thing I told you last week that I wanted to see out of this game is I wanted to see Miller more comfortable. I wanted the slowest pace down. I want to see him check out whenever there's clear blitzes. I saw improvements from the James Madison game. Don't get me wrong, James Madison's a different beast than Bowling Green, but I think he started to find some stuff, specifically in that second quarter on that play action game. I think Miller was growing in his confidence in himself. I really liked what I saw from Dakari Collins. His ability to just go up and get the ball. I think they need to use that a little bit more. We saw it on the 2-point conversion against James Madison. I like to see more from some of the role players in that wide receiver room. Colin Lacey, that's why we got you, Colin. We know that's you. That's how you need to use Colin every week. Get him the ball any means necessary.
Yeah, some of us have been saying that for a little while now. No, I think the offensive conversation, it's a weird one to have. We had a lot of really good conversation about it on that space last night. Like, honest to God, go check that out if you haven't heard that yet. It's up on our Twitter pages. It'll be there for another week. Just some phenomenal guests coming in as well on there. But with the offense, man, we'll start with Miller Moss. I think all of this kind of works in together, but we're going to talk about this in a tiered system.
Yeah.
You like the little hand thing there doing the safety dance?
Yeah.
Um, with Miller Moss, man, I'm starting to get a little concerned. We're seeing a lot of the same things happening. I think that I think he's struggling adapting to this offense. And that's just me being very honest. There's been at least 7 or 8 times now this season where I've watched the guys, Miller, he's in the huddle, calls a play, snaps the ball. Miller goes this way, everybody else goes that way. And that's just an understanding of the playbook, man. And that stuff, we can't have. And that's starting to become a little bit repetitious, which is a little concerning for me. Going along with that, Miller in the deep game, it's 75% there, but it's not all the way there. His decision making, especially with using his legs, is starting to be a little bit concerning. He has easy yardage available, and he never takes it. DCs are going to key in on that. They're not going to have a guy in spy. They're going to drop a guy in coverage. They will know. Get ready, Miami will know that. So yeah, that's a little concerning. With all of that being said, though, his stat line was not bad yesterday. He threw for 300 yards, no touchdowns, no interceptions. Miller Moss is starting to remind me a lot of Phillip Rivers, and I know that sounds very weird to say. Phillip and Miller, I think, are very similar in the fact that they're going to do enough for you to win the game. They're probably not going to cost you a game, but they're never going to go that extra distance to win you a game. And I know we're only 3 games through the season, and the competition has been very varied, so it's hard to say. So I'm a little concerned about Miller. I do think, though, with time, it will eventually work itself out. I'm not saying bench him. I'm not saying anything like that, but know his limitations at this point in time.
I do love that comparison to Phillip Rivers, but the one thing constant with Phillip Rivers went on those really good Chargers teams was
Mm-hmm.
running back. And I
Yeah.
feel like Miller has the benefit of the best running back room in the country. And I think he has a really quality tight end room. It's a deep tight end room, and he has some big weapons on the outside. So I think the team's built to make up for the limitations. And hopefully, as the year goes on, you see more understanding of the playbook and being able to check in and out of plays, much like what you saw last year with Tyler.
Yeah. And then obviously it's a twofold conversation in that the offensive line. It's not looking better. I don't know what the issue is. I mean, the guys, when they're scheming them to pull, they're pulling, but it's that constant pressure off the right side of the offensive line. I do think that will get a little bit better with Sylvester getting more acclimated into the season, but we didn't see that yesterday. And granted, Sylvester did come in the later half of the game on limited snap count. He had a holding on his very first game playing the game, so he's getting used to it. But yeah, I think you're really at the point now this season where you really need to look at what you have on offense. You got really good skill position guys, and for everything I just said about Miller Moss, he's really good in the short game, and you have a really good running back room. Maybe you need to kind of readjust at this point in time. Try to work in more short developing plays. Something we've seen a lot from Jeff is he loves his long developing play action plays, and he loves to go 15 yet down the field and get a one-on-one and go crazy. That might not be working right now. And that might not work for the rest of the season if you continue to have these offensive line problems. I would love, and this will take me into the next point, love to get more into the short developing stuff, to get into these shorter routes, to get more involved with your running back room on the outside. I think that would do wonders for this offense right now and the point where Miller is at. Miller will get better. I think the offensive line will get better, but for the time being, especially going against this Pitt team, which we'll talk about here soon, I think that's your best chance of success.
Well, as we touched on, there's the skill positions, the running back and wide receivers. You kind of want a way that he can get the ball out fast. I'd love a way that if you can get Duke and Ivy on the field at the same time, you could have Colin run a bubble and have Ivy run a quick out and have Duke run a quick Texas and just have Chris run a vert and just give him multiple options and have all options be 3 seconds and the ball's got to come out.
Yeah. So where I'm going to bring this in at, my boy Colin had himself his best game in a Louisville uniform yesterday. Some of us have been saying that's to be expected. If you go back and you watch South Alabama in 2022, and I know on this show everything always goes back to South Alabama and Mobile, but if you go back to 2022 and you watch Collins' final season down there, it was a very similar situation. The offensive line was a little rough. Their quarterback was having a really hard time in the intermediate to deep game, and they had a pretty quick backfield. They were giving Colin Lacey the ball 10 to 15 times per game. They were getting him the ball in orbit. They were getting him in bubble screens, little 3-yard slants, 5-yard outs, jets, any way they could. We saw a little bit of that yesterday. We saw a lot of tunnel screens being incorporated. We haven't seen that very much with Colin Lacey. I really like that. I really think you need to lean in on that offensive philosophy, and you got to ride Colin Lacey here, man. That kid is a potential NFL player. Use him, you know? And I think if you do that, and if they start keying in on Colin Lacey, you got this other guy named Dakari Collins out there who just showed he can make plays when you give him the opportunity. And then, just full circle then with your philosophy, you also have Isaac Brown, you have Duke Watson, Kewan Brown. Like, you have all these guys to where there will always be some form of a mismatch if they start to double whoever you're going at. And really, what that kind of goes down to is that old Bobby Petrino philosophy. Another full circle moment here. Who was the primary play caller at South Alabama in 2022? Do you know?
I'm not sure. I haven't. I'm a little cold on my South Alabama
It
history.
was Paul Petrino.
Oh, it was what?
It all goes back to that Petrino, John L. Smith philosophy of feed the studs. We've kind of gotten away from that a little bit here. Jeff really relied on that heavily at Purdue and at Western Kentucky. You got to get back to that philosophy, and you got to get back to however you can make that offensive system work. Because as you can see, with our current offense, they're scoring points, they're moving the ball, they're having a little bit of a hard time in the red zone, which is a little concerning, but they're moving the ball very well. You have the tools to be a really, really good offense. You just have to learn how to use those tools the best way possible, in my opinion.
I completely agree. So we touched on the offense and defensive side of the ball. I got to give a shout out to probably the best performing side of the ball on the team. Special teams yesterday.
Hey, special players play special teams, and special teams make special plays that win special football games, baby.
Nick Keller broke the school record for longest field goal, 57-yarder, breaking the Brock Travelstead's record from last year in the Notre Dame game. I think Ranveer was 4 of 4. I think 2 from PAT, and I think all of Keller's kickoffs either landed in the end zone were touchbacks. Colin Lacey probably, I think is over 200 yards in punt return yards, including the 75.
He had the one bad one. We got to eliminate that. But other than that, phenomenal.
Yeah. Outside of the muff punt, I don't think you can ask anything better from your special team.
No, man. What is so awesome to see, obviously, that kick from Keller would have been good from like 62. I just want to point that out. Like, that had distance on it from 57.
I love
but because
it was his first 50-yarder in college, and he kicked that.
I mean, he got all of it. But what you're going to see now, man, is in future weeks when coaches go back and watch film on Louisville, they're going to see Keller hitting a 57. And that's going to be in their mind. And they're going to say, hey, their field goal range is actually from 45, and that's going to change how people play defense against you completely. That is the fact that Brom brought him out there to do that, that is some high-level, big football stuff right there.
And as we touched on throughout the summer, we've heard things about Cooper being able to hit it from that far. Keller, we got 3 guys that can hit from pretty far out, and they can hit it consistently.
Yeah, and dude, it's pretty cool. Ranveer, we've never had an iced out kicker and a swaggy kicker, but we have one now. He's over there hitting cellies after hitting 40-yard field goals. I love it. But yeah, dude, special teams looks awesome. And the thing that's awesome, like really, really awesome, is you can lean on special teams as a threat now going through the remainder of the season. And that's, that's going to, that whole dynamic, that's something teams are going to have to play around. But I guess do you have any final thoughts about Bowling Green? Anything we didn't hit on?
Like we said, the 3s and 4s were slightly concerning, but they were coming in. They had only been in a couple of plays. Bowling Green hit a big play. The second drive they allowed, that was just a busted coverage that Bowling Green was able to score on over the top. Overall, you lead this game. You got to be a little happy. You scored 40 points in a game that 3 out of your top 4 offensive threats didn't play. You're easing your way into full strength right before the heart of your ACC schedule. You can't be healthier at a better time. You got Pittsburgh next week. Should have IB back. Should have Chris Bell full go. We don't know about Duke right now, but I think you're going into next week happier than what you were going into this week because I feel like you were able to see Miller progress a little bit in the offense.
Yeah, I'm the same. I think I'm not really the same. I'm sorry, I just said that as like a natural mechanism there. I think you have the tools to be a really, really good team, and it's shown. We just have to fully learn how to use all those tools on the offense. Defensively, top 15 defense, Ron. Prove them wrong, brother. But I mean, I'm not doom scrolling. I saw a lot of people a little upset. I'm personally not extremely upset about it. They played good enough to win, and I honestly think if you play that way in every game except for one game this season, you'll win those games.
Mm-hmm.
Moving on forward, though, the Cards officially start conference play next week. ESPN 2 noon. The Cards are a 6.5-point favorite. They're going to Pittsburgh.
Eli Holstein's healthy. Last year when we got him, he was coming off a concussion the week prior against Virginia. He went out early. He went out first quarter. We won that game by 30, 40 points. I forgot the exact final score of that one. Last time we went to Pitt, we lost 38-14 in a game. That was the dud of the year. We did not show up. Like I said, we're getting healthy at the right time. Pittsburgh is a team that they want to blitz. They will blitz a lot. So we're going to find out early how this game is going to go for the offense. They're going to show a lot of looks similar to what James Madison did, blitzing on the outside into the interior of the offensive line. Sylvester is going to have to get acclimated pretty quickly on that right side for us to be able to consistently be able to move the football. Secondary wise, you're looking at a Pittsburgh team that's a little weaker than it has been in years past. So if you're able to give Miller time, you should have some openings specifically over the middle of the field. Pittsburgh lost both starting safeties from last season. Offensively, Pittsburgh struggles in the run game. They allowed West Virginia to run for over 150 yards. You got Isaac Brown back. Like I said, the offensive line plays how we know they can. Shouldn't have no real issues there. Brown's the best running back in the country. I'd like to see you use Colin a little bit more in the short to mid intermediate game to allow the drop back, the linebacker a little bit to make it a little easier on Isaac. I feel like he's breaking these, but it's making it a little bit more difficult whenever everybody's just crashing the line. But overall, this Pittsburgh team's a team that's going to give you some problems, but on paper, you're probably 2 touchdowns better than them. It's at Pittsburgh. It's going to be a fun one.
So I'm going to be honest. I've spent most of the day today. Today is Sunday, for those of you guys that don't know our recording schedule. So most of the day today watching Pittsburgh. I've spoken to a few guys that cover Pittsburgh for, various sources and whatnot. I don't think Pittsburgh is very good, if you want my honest opinion. I don't think they're a very good team. Holstein looked really good against Duquesne and against Western Michigan. Congratulations, you should look good against Duquesne and Western Michigan. He looked downright bad against West Virginia.
I agree.
He looked bad. Now, granted, West Virginia's a hard one to talk about. It's a rivalry game. I get it. Emotions high, XYZ, whatever. Something I've heard multiple times now this weekend from people really close to Pittsburgh. Do not be surprised if Holstein comes out looking flat if they make a change at quarterback, because it's getting to that point. There was almost a change made back in the spring portal. So don't be surprised. Offensive line wise for Pittsburgh, they're right on par with Louisville. Just being very, it's not a good offensive line. Desmond Reed, he didn't practice last week. He was hurt in the first half of West Virginia. He has another week to heal up and to try to get ready. I don't know what that looks like, but I wouldn't be surprised to see a reduced snap count from him. He's a really good back also, man. He's probably the second best back in the ACC, to be completely honest with you. Their wide receivers, they're not very good. I mean, just being very honest, a familiar name to the program, Katarius Hicks. He plays over there now. They really like to get him involved in orbits and jets and whatnot just to get him the ball because, as most Louisville fans know, he has a little bit of an issue with catching the ball. So for the offense, Louisville's defense should feast this game. They should have a big day. They should have a really, really big day. Now we got to talk about defense. Pitt's defense, The front seven's really good. Like the front seven for Pitt, it's a really good front seven. Um, I will say that they have a high, at least historically under Narduzzi, they've had a high blitz rate. I don't see how any competent defensive coordinator in the country doesn't watch Louisville right now and say, "Yeah, we're going to blitz." It kind of is a natural born conclusion. So you're going to have to get the passing game involved here. And kind of taking us back to that Bowling Green conversation, I really think you're going to have to get the short and intermediate game involved, similar to what you said. It's going to be your best chance of success here. I do think you'll be able to run to the outside. Typically when Pitt blitzes, they blitz through the middle of the field. They're not very big on outside blitzing, and they do not like to send their secondary in blitzes, which is a good thing for Miller Moss. Um, so yeah, I think you're going to have to be able to move the ball against these guys, and defensively, you shouldn't be that worried. I believe I said it at the top. What we opened as a 6.5 point favorite, right? This is your opportunity to kind of turn some heads in the country. If you go out there, you win this game by 2 or more touchdowns, you'll have some people talking. Also, one other thing I didn't mention about Pitt, they're awful at tackle. They are a bad tackling team. A lot of arm tackles on
I
that
did
secondary.
that for West Virginia. I think they had 33 missed tackles overall in that whole game, which is
Yeah,
off.
I believe it, dude. I mean, again, it's really hard to take away too much from the West Virginia game because, yeah, it's rivalry and everything, blah, 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 blah. But at the end of the day, that is the most competent team they played.
Mm-hmm.
And to be very honest with you, West Virginia ain't that good.
Mm-mm.
They got smoked by Kansas yesterday and they lost to Ohio. Um, I just, I don't see that as being a very good team. And you really fumbled that game away. They had a 10-point lead at one point and they just let it go. Holstein couldn't move the ball in the second half. Um, it, it's an opportunity for Louisville. You have to go about the game the right way. Something else to note about Pittsburgh, they're horrible on third downs. They are horrid. They get themselves in third and longs and they cannot get out of their own way. Against West Virginia, they went 4 for 17. And then they're also another highly penalized team as well, which at least we have that in common. We're not the only ones. But this is your chance. That's the biggest way I can say. Learn how to use what you have and get after it. But honestly, I think a guy like Lubin has a massive day on Saturday.
Another thing that I want to touch on is Louisville has a drastically better special teams unit than what Pittsburgh has. Pittsburgh's had some issues on the special teams. I think their kickers already missed 2 or 3 field goals through week 4 games. Punting wise, I think they're averaging about a 43.8 yard punt, which is lower on the average to typical ACC punter right now. I think as long as you're able to build on the running offense early in the short game, you should be able to have the field position to be able to score early and often.
Mm-hmm.
And you got the kicking game now that people are going to start pressing a little bit earlier, as we mentioned with the Bowling Green. Now that they know you can make it from that far, they're not going to give you that 5 yards at the 50 that they would have going into this week.
Mm-hmm. No, I agree. I think just this is a team. I don't think they're very good. Yeah, the game's in Pittsburgh. I think it's going to be rainy also, which I really don't like because this isn't even me trying to trash talk Pittsburgh, but both the Steelers and Pitt have this problem where the field conditions there at Heinz Field. Yes, it is still Heinz Field. They're awful. I mean, we've seen guys get hurt in warmups.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I mean, Louisville. I think you give me your prediction first. I want to hear your prediction.
Okay, like I said, on paper, you factor in the offensive side of the ball. And in a perfect world when everybody's healthy, you're 2.5 touchdowns better than Pittsburgh. Like you said, Reed may not be playing. You're getting IB back. You're getting Chris back. Duke, we don't know if he's going to be back or not. But you've seen guys on the 3 and 4 like Wilder and Jennings who've showed that they can run the ball and run the ball hard if they're needed. And you got Keywan who ran for, was it over 100 yards this week? If not, it was close. I know he had 70 through 2 quarters and 2 touchdowns. Offensively, I think you win this game. I think defensive-wise, I think Clev's going to get a lot of pressure on the outside. And I think this is a game you're going to see Jordan Gerard really eat on the interior. I feel like this could be a big game for the linebackers. I think I wouldn't be shocked if you saw multiple sacks from the linebackers and TJ Quinn Antonio Watts, Caleb Perry, and TJ Capers. I think the game's going to come down to how well you're able to keep the ball out of Pittsburgh's hands in time of possession. It's going to be wet. It's going to be slippery. There's going to be fumble issues, hopefully for them and not us. I think Louisville wins this game, and I think they win it 35-14.
Cool. Me personally will start over with the offense. If you can hold off the pressure, and if Moss has a good game, I don't know about the status of Duke. I don't think anyone publicly really knows about it, but I do feel pretty good in Isaac playing significant amount of snaps, especially for the fact that he did see the field last week. I think the offense is able to move the ball. I could see special teams kind of getting you a large amount of points in this game. Louisville's really struggled in the secondary. They do move the ball very well. They move the ball or about a 6-yard per gain clip, which is pretty dang good. It's kind of what you come to expect from Jeff Brom, just those slow, methodical kind of drives. As long as you don't come out flat, I think the offense has the opportunity to perform well. And what you can't get on the offense, I think special teams can get you. Defensively, you should have constant pressure. They're going to try to throw the ball a lot on you. Your secondary is still a little unproven. They've played well, but against not the best of competition and teams that don't exactly like to throw the football. So it's going to be a good opportunity for them. I think the defense, though, they can force quite a few stops here. I'm going to take Louisville, and I actually think it's going to be a little bit closer. I think it's going to be a little less scoring than what you said. I'm going to take the Cards. I'll say 20-6. I think they do win by 2. I just don't see it being that high scoring a game. I don't think you're going to be able to throw the ball a whole lot this game. Just being very point blank.
I think Isaac Brown runs for over 140 yards, gets 2 touchdowns. That'd be my bet of the week is Isaac Brown over 120.
So my bet of the week, and I know I just said I don't think you're going to throw the ball very much. I think Colin Lacey has over 65 receiving yards and 1 touchdown. I think they're going to continue. I think the light bulb went off in their head last week, and they're like, holy crap, we can use this guy a lot. And I think that's kind of the way that they go about it. But with all that being said, that is going to wrap us up for the Bowling Green and the Pittsburgh talk. My friend James, thank you as always. To the viewers, please like, share, subscribe, all that good stuff. Recommend us to your friends. It really helps the channel. Drop us a comment below. We'd love to hear your thoughts. And we will catch you guys later on. Stay tuned to the YouTube channel. We got a lot more great content. We got some recruiting videos coming out. And we also have our national football talk coming out as well. Thank you guys very much. And we will catch you all later. Go Cards.
Go Cards.